Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining me. How are you? Have a good day, everyone, and God bless you. Alright, now we will come to today's news. And I continue to monitor the Kari Lake lawsuit trial that's taking place right now in Arizona, and Kari Lake's lawyers are apps doing a fantastic job in presenting the case, and the Maricopa County stooges look guilty as heck. Let me tell you what in America First Voice is also covering it as well. Ben Burke Guam, who is reported down there, has been doing an excellent job in coverage. Yeah, fantastic stuff coming out. The evidence is truly on Kari Lake's side on this. Is all going to rely on this judge whether or not he's going to be able to look past the smokescreen that the defense is trying to put up, or actually look at the facts and look at the evidence that has been presented to him in front of him and how things operated. Either they were complete clowns or it was either intentional. Those go into options we got coming out. Maricopa County officials right now, there were eager clowns or they were malicious in their attempt to ensure that voters were suppressed coming out there. That is what voter suppression looks like. Here we go. Let's go ahead and take a look what Burb Bemberg reports on with the Kari Lake trial going on. Everyone listen to this, he says. It's interesting. The fact that the trial's even going on is news there. There have been 3 testimonies so far. They had started with Stephen Richard this morning. And then they, who was obviously the county recorder for Maricopa County, then they went to Scott Jarrett, who is underneath both Stephen Richard and Bill Gates. He's the undersecretary, if you will, for observing the elections or running the elections. And then they just ended with Clay Parikh, who's a cyber expert on ballots, the machines, on intelligence. And I would say up until Clay's testimony, it was kinda back and forth. There wasn't really anything earth-shattering. But what they did was they set up Scott Jarrett and their line of questioning on Kari Lake's team. And they asked one question. They kept going in on this question. Is it possible what would happen so if all of the ballots were supposed to be 20-inch ballots, and in the system was only set to print 20-inch ballots and the tabulators were only set to read 20-inch page ballots? And they asked Jerry, what would happen if a 19-inch ballot was run through the machine, and his response? He was confused. He seemed confused. He said that's not possible. The configurations weren't in the machines, they wouldn't happen. We didn't have any 20-inch ballots. Well, it's interesting, the following testimony by Clay Curry, who's the cyber expert, he was actually the one that got to observe yesterday, which was the breaking news as well, the fact that they got to observe these ballots, and out of the 14 of the 15 duplicate ballots that he observed, 14 out of 15 of them were 19-inch ballots printed on 20-inch paper, which means somebody made that change. And it's basically leading to the argument that the high bar that Kari Lake's team is going to have to meet, that this was intentional, that people made intentional decisions or mistakes that led to the debacle, the disaster that we saw on November 8th. Okay folks, fantastic. Thereby Ben Burke won, and his reporting on that. And it's absolutely correct. The ballots were smaller than what the configuration size was, which was 20 hands, and they had printed him on 19 inches, which would reject ballots, and when they would go to the tablet or senators later, because they said they would take those rejected ballots, put it in a box, and they would say they will still count. And they said they will still have issues at the tablet at the main tabulation center because it wouldn't be able to read it, or it would read it wrong and not for the candidate that the voter intended for. So it's complete debacle, like Ben said, and I still believe in strongly that Kari Lake colluded with, along with the Maricopa County Supervisor of Election, Bill Gates, and Stephen Richards or Riker. And of course, we have the emails showing us that they colluded with big tech as well to silence their critics and ordered for her to observe her own election. And to ensure that these inconsistencies, these voter suppression methods, were going to show up on election day, ensuring that she would win on election day. Absolutely disgusting what's took place in this election, and we'll see how the judge will react to all of this, and we still have one more day of trial, which will be today. And some significant news, Kevin McCarthy goes on offense in speaker race. Representative Kevin McCarthy on Monday appeared to take a more aggressive approach to becoming the House Speaker by wrapping up support among potential incoming House Republican committee chairs and 54. Quote, only Kevin votes on January 3rd. McCarthy will need at least 218 votes from House members to win the gavel. There are currently 5 Republican members who oppose McCarthy speakership. 14 potential incoming House Republican committee chairs issued a letter in support of McCarthy. The letter is significant because the signatories include some of the most notable members of the GOP House Conference, including some high-profile conservatives. Signatories of the letter included 14 potential committee chairs including Representatives Jim Jordan, James Comer, Michael McCaul and Patrick McHenry. The letter comes on the same day that McCarthy released names of 54 only Kevin GOP House members who will not vote for anyone else other than McCarthy. The group of Only Kevin voters have reportedly started wearing pins with the Only Kevin abbreviation. Representative Jim Banks stated he is supporting McCarthy because McCarthy has made concessions to conservatives. Quotes, McCarthy has given conservatives a seat at the table, which is why I'm supporting him for Speaker. He said McCarthy is currently opposed by 5 House GOP members, Representatives Andy Biggs, Matt Gaetz, Ralph Norman, Matt Rosendale, and Bob Good. If the McCarthy opposition sticks together, they could derail McCarthy's hopes of the speakership. It is possible establishment Republicans could work with Democrats to elect a Republican that is not named McCarthy. The opposition appears to be struggling to find an alternative to McCarthy's bed. GOP senators oppose extra funding to move economic migrants into U.S. jobs. Senator Shelley Moore Capito, the Homeland Security Appropriations Ranking Member, said Republicans are concerned about providing emergency funding for border management without additional deterrence measures to stem the flow of migrants. Quotes, my feeling is there has to be a much better effort through appropriations for deterrence. She said. She continues, quote, let's make some moves there and then see where we are. Democrats in Congress have already provided border agency officials with billions of dollars to quietly move economic migrants into cities and towns across the nation. The money is disguised as funding to counter emergencies and various government programs. But Joe Biden's deputies want more money to help transport the extra migrants expected once the Title 42 border barriers lifted on December 21. The funding also helps minimize migrant crowds that might be broadcast by evening TV networks. The draft budget bill is expected to be released on Monday with the approval of at least 10 GOP senators, but some portions may not be decided until Thursday, such as the border funding. It is the GOP's last chance to use its control of the budget before October 2023. To protect the border as Biden's deputies rushed to lift the Title 42 border barrier under Biden and Border Chief Alejandro Mayorkas, the guards at the southern border are under orders to quickly process migrants' release into U.S. jobs and homes. According to the latest Los Angeles Times/YouGov poll, 65% of Americans said Biden's Department of Homeland Security ought to be either detaining border crossers and illegal aliens or immediately deporting them to their native countries after they arrive at the United States-Mexico border. Notably, nearly 6 in 10 Hispanic Americans said border crossers and illegal aliens should be detained in the U.S. or deported to their native countries while awaiting their hearings. Only 26% said they support releasing new arrivals into the United States interior. Biden's catch-release network is so unpopular that even a majority of registered Democrats at 53% said they want to see border crossers and illegal aliens detained or deported. Fewer than 3 in 10 Democrats said that they support the Biden policy. The government's combination of legal and illegal migration may exceed the U.S. births in 2023. Trump declines to make RNC chair endorsement of Dillon or McDaniel. Donald Trump said he will not endorse RNC chairwoman Ronna McDaniel's bid for re-election or Harmeet Dillon, one of his attorneys seeking the post. Quotes, I think they're both good, Trump said on Friday. I like them both. The re-election team from McDaniel, whom Trump picked in 2017 to run the RNC, says she has enough votes among the 168 committee members for a 4th term. Dillon, a committee member from California, has garnered support from key Republican figures and state groups including the Texas and Arizona Republican parties, as well as the longtime RNC member Martin Blackwell, who founded the Leadership Institute, a conservative training group under McDaniel's leadership. Republicans lost the House in 2018, Congress in 2020, and had a lackluster performance in 2022. Texas Governor Abbott says that border states prepare for deluge of crossings with ending of Title 42. With Title 42 enforcement ending Wednesday, Texas Governor Greg Abbott and the leaders of other border states are preparing for unexpected deluge of illegal entries into the United States. The anticipation of the end of the Trump-era Public Health Authority, which allowed Border Patrol agents to immediately expel illegal crossers for health concerns, has already led to a surge of new entries, with the El Paso sector at the southern border and northern sector including Vermont, seeing record numbers of illegal crossings. Quote, while the federal government abandons its constitutional duty to defend America and secure the border, the state of Texas continues taking unprecedented action to de-escalate and decrease the influx of dangerous criminals, illegal weapons and deadly drugs like fentanyl into our country. Abbott said. He continues, quote, stepping up to overcome extraordinary challenges is embedded in the spirit of Texas, and I have no doubt that the exceptional men and women serving Texans and Americans through Operation Lone Star will employ the best possible strategies to navigate the uncharted waters of Biden's escalating border crisis. Abbott met with the heads of the Texas Military Department and Department of Public Safety on Friday to discuss the state's response to the unprecedented deluge. It came after Abbott said Texas would be constructing more of its border wall next month after successful negotiations were reached with private property owners. Quote, it took months to prepare with owners on the border for the right to build on their property. Abbott said we now should be building more border wall all of next year. While they commend Abbott and Texas law enforcement, the Texas GOP and at least 40 county judges have called on the governor to officially declare an invasion, and to appellate, meaning prevent entry into Texas by positioning the Texas military along the border to secure it, not apprehend illegal foreign nationals, and turn the mortgage border patrol agents who often release them into the U.S. Critics have also called on Abbott to repel the invasion by returning those who illegally enter Texas on state land to Mexico. At least 18,000 people a day are expected to illegally enter the U.S. once Title 42 is lifted. The illegal entries will soon dwarf the record 2.7 million apprehended by CBP agents in fiscal year 2022. It pays not to work. Americans are making more staying home than working under Biden's socialist utopia. A new study by Committee to Unleash Prosperity economists finds that government payments and free healthcare benefits can pay more than the annual equivalent of a $100,000 job in 3 states and the equivalent of an $80,000 a year job in 13 states. The national average of unemployment and Affordable Care Act Obamacare subsidized for a family of 4 with 2 parents receiving UI benefits as the equivalent of more than $60,000 a year in cash and benefits. The study authors conclude that those high benefits are a major reason that labor force participation is at or near a record low today, and that there are still at least 3 million fewer Americans working today than before the pandemic. Adding to the problem, the authors conclude, is that most of the landmark work requirements in the 1996 welfare reform bill have been removed, and so workers are slower to get back on the job when they lose a job. There's 3 states that offer benefit packages of more than $100,000 a year, or Washington, New Jersey and Massachusetts. The study also finds that in several states, even families with an income above $400,000 a year can be eligible for taxpayer-subsidized healthcare coverage. Alright, thanks for being here folks. Please receive a big hug from all of us. Let me know